All right, let's get started with a quick review of a couple of different notation things that you should be familiar with. So for one is how we can rewrite a radical with a fraction exponent. So for example, the square root of x is the same as x to the 1/2. The cube root of x is the same as x to the 1/3. We might have both an index to the root, so I usually refer to this number as the index of the root, and an exponent. So let's say we have something like the cube root of x squared. So this would be the same as the cube root of x. It actually doesn't matter if you place that exponent on the inside or the outside. Those expressions are equivalent. But either way, this would be written as x to the 2/3. So note that the exponent is the numerator of the fraction exponent, and the index of the root is the denominator. I'm just going to abbreviate there. Okay, so if we had something like the square root of, why don't we say x plus 1, maybe cubed, and we'll make that a fifth root. So this would be the same as x plus 1. Remember, the exponent is the numerator. The index of the root is the denominator. Okay, so that notation will be used interchangeably throughout all of these different examples. So let's start with an example. So I'm going to go through an example, and then you're going to try one in WebAssign that is really similar. So let's take 3 root x minus 10 is equal to 0. Okay, so just like the absolute value equations that we've solved, or when we've used that square root property to solve quadratic equations, it's often of use to get that interesting piece of the equation by itself. So in this case, that interesting piece is going to be the radical. So we're going to isolate the radical expression, which in this case is just the square root of x. So I'm going to take that 10 to the other side by adding 10. And then we're going to divide both sides by 3. So square root of x is equal to 10 over 3. Okay, so now we want to know what is x. So to get x by itself, I'm now going to square both sides of the equation. Okay, so that means we're going to square the left, and we're going to square the right. So the square root of x squared is just x, and then if I'm squaring a fraction, so the numerator, or 10 squared, is 100, and 3 squared is 9. Now, it's important to check these. So let's go back to the original equation to do our check. And we'll sub in 100 over 9 for x. So this is 3 times the square root of 100 over 9 minus 10 is equal to 0. So this is 3 times square root of the top. So square root of 100 is 10. Square root of 9 is 3 minus 10 equals 0. So remember, this is the same as 3 over 1. So I can reduce by a factor of 3. So I'm left with 10 minus 10 equals 0. That checks. So I do have a solution, and it is 100 over 9.